Stig, episode 6. Stig me up, baby. Yeah. You want some Fashawn? Let me triangulate you with some travel. Ooh. Have you been absorbed by my facade, baby? Wrap it all the way around you. Ooh, yeah. Come and embrace the Stig. Banality, vapidness, and vacuous nonsense abroad. Ooh, look. Words. I'll rearrange them to make me sound interesting on the Stig. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Yes, you join me for another slab of regurgitated nonsense that is the Stig, a parody of the now defunct Tig, created by Harry's wife some time ago. It enables us to understand more about this individual as we examine the evidence of her behaviour, both in terms of looking it through the narcissistic prism and just generally entertaining ourselves at the sheer ridiculousness of how up her own bottom she tends to be. Well, we were taken to Malta, weren't we? And I read in the comments someone's far more interesting excursion that they had there, which included a skirmish with pickpockets and somebody else commenting about their father's experience during World War II, which was a much more interesting read than anything that Harry's wife could put. And I was also entertained by somebody talking about one of the restaurants where I think a waiter or somebody or a patron was outside taking a piss in the open. So not quite the cloud cuckoo land that Harry's wife was residing in. But what's next? Where will the Stig take us? Are we going to be invited to buy ridiculously expensive clothing? Or perhaps we're going to be told how to make a simple drink. Maybe it's foodie time with this self-professed foodie gal from California. No, maybe we're going to go down the line of Fashawn. No, it's more travel. I can hear the ripple of excitement going through you, Tudorites, as you think, oh, goody gumdrops. Where is Harry's wife going to take us to today? Is she going to throw open the gates to knowledge about a raft of fascinating places around the globe? Perhaps she's going to go to Brussels and engage in some bureaucracy and check out the headquarters of the European Commission, the European Parliament, and NATO, whilst perhaps trying to record whilst she's there. Maybe she's going to go to Liechtenstein, which is the world's largest producer of dentures. Or maybe she's going to return to home soil and go to Lubbock, Texas, which has been described as the most boring place in the United States. Then again, it might be as such that she decides that she's going to go to Qatar, basically known for conferences and shopping, which will allow her to dream about talking to a rapt audience of thousands while she shows off what she's bought from the many malls that can be found there. Or perhaps she's going to venture to SE830220, which is a cold and dark and extremely forlorn beet field that can be found in Yorkshire. No, it's none of those things. In fact, you're going to be treated to the Insider's Guide to London. Yes. Now then, this is a number of years ago. What was she doing there? What was she hoping to achieve? What was she on the hunt for? Well, there's only one way to find out. We need to dive in. And you will see that we are immediately treated, on the screen, to some pictures of Harry's wife in that there London. The first picture, she appears to think that she is appearing on the cover of a Pet Shop Boys record, I think, with those shades. And it appears that there's a UFO hovering right in front of her, but she doesn't appear to have noticed, as she's just staring vapidly up through the glass as the UFO hovers in front of her. She missed out a real opportunity there, I would say. Then she stood in the entrance of a doorway with, I think, her the same shades on, wearing a dress which is not particularly shabby. So at least she did make appearances fridged by Valentino on that occasion. But yes, she's stood in a doorway. Is she going in or is she going out? Who fucking cares? And then another picture where probably what's happened here is that in order for a photo opportunity, she's decided that she would basically trespass and go into somebody's back garden in an area of London and start to water the plants. And the homeowner has come back as to say, "Who the fuck are you?" And she stood there as if to say, "Oh, hello, my name's Harry's wife of Tigville, and I just thought I'd water your plants for you. I'm sure you don't mind." As she shows, once again, absolute zero boundary recognition. Where is that, and what on earth is she doing all of that for? Maybe we'll find out. Maybe we'll be enlightened as we get the Insider's Guide to London introduction. Hikari reads in copy. Well, we're off to a pretentious start already, so if you're playing bullshit bingo as you lounge around your house, or perhaps are not out of bed yet, you can put a tick there. Indeed, I think we should at some point organise a game, perhaps through a live stream of Harry's wife's bullshit bingo. You will obtain beforehand a particular card with certain set phrases, and then your glorious narrator can read them out as we come up with hello and nemesis, along with bombshell, and of course not forgetting for Sean. And you can tick them off and we might have a prize. I make a note to look into that. But anyway, Hikari reads in copy, whatever the dickens that means. This is not the name of the coolest band you've never heard of. It's a shit name for a band. I can think of much better names than that, Plastic Spoon Men from Mars being one. Rather, this was the first line of an email from my friend Celine connecting me to Hikari Yokomanawa. Just the fact that she opted to say reads in copy as against CC'd already had me tickled. Well, you're easily amused, is all I can say. And with a name like Hikari, I knew this was going to be good. Eh? So if it was Peter, it would be shit, would it? Or if it was Mary, it would be boring. How the fuck does somebody being called Hikari equate to it being really good? What a load of fucking nonsense. In putting together the travel content for the TIG, I wanted to plagiarise, I wanted to highlight my favourite hidden gems in the world, but also to get an insider perspective from curators. There it is. There's the word. Curators. Yes, curators. Not creators, not manufacturers, but curators. More pretentious, obnoxious bullshit. She wanted to get an insider perspective from creators. I'm going to change it. Creators of cool. Q Hikari. Come on, Hikari, your turn now. Beautiful, fashionable, incredibly cultured, and one of the teams of people who started Paddle8.com, an online auction site for contemporary art and design. A world traveller. We're all world travellers, unless you're an astronaut. We all travel around the world. Whether you're driving down the M4 from London to Reading, you're travelling a part of the world. If you fly from Lisbon to go to Svalbard, you're travelling the world. If you walk around the corner of your house to another part of your house, you're travelling part of the world. Everybody's a world traveller. Just put traveller. Lover of the arts, an advocate of Women for Women International. Oh, aye. What's that then? Sapphic dating site? Hikari is as TIG as it comes. Imagine being described in that way. Imagine being said that it's said about you that you're as Tig as it comes. Not only would you be thinking, what on earth does that actually mean? You'd be thinking, that just sounds so ridiculous. Hey, you're as Tig as it comes. No, you're as Stig as it comes. Now a London local by way of New York, she's the girl that chooses right, does right, and orders right. What are you saying? She's some kind of Nazi. Just like a scene in When Harry Met Sally, you could look at Hikari and say, I'll have what she's having. Really? So if she's there eating a bull's testicle, would you go, I'll have what she's having? If she happens to be chewing the ear off somebody, and I don't mean metaphorically, she's literally chewing the ear of somebody who's got in her way, would you say, I'll have an ear to chew on as well? What is this? That couple of paragraphs meant fuck all. We got introduced to someone called Hikari Yokoyama. And she's beautiful and fashionable and incredibly cultured. I've no idea who she is, and I'm not really any the wiser for this pap. So let's move on. Well, we have to move on because that's the end of the bollocks in that particular paragraph. And now what are we going to get as I scroll upwards? Yes, well now we continue with the Insider's Guide to London. Eat. As one of the commentators on the last episode pointed out, she's always telling people what to do rather than making recommendations and suggestions. And I think the lady who made the comment was German and wondered if this was an English thing. No, it's not. It's just that she's so prescriptive, she has to order everybody around, which is an exhibition of her sense of entitlement. So we get some pictures of the interiors of some restaurants. Let's find out what she has to write about this as we move on to Eat. Chiltern Firehouse. This is my local haunt and sister hotel to Chateau Marmont in Los Angeles and the Mercer in New York. How often do you think she's actually been in there? Or she's flicked through a magazine and seen that people have gone in those places and character trait acquired? Coming from New York, courtesy of my dear friend, Andre Balawaz, this is a little bit of New York mentality brought to London. By that, I mean it's an ever-evolving mix of interesting people in an unpretentious setting with the best food and service possible. Chef Nuno Mendes is as humble as he is genius and always shakes your hand, wondering who on earth he's talking to, bows his head enthusiastically thinking, I've no idea who you are, and says thank you if I bump into him, where if I elbow him, he then says sorry, proving that delicious food is made not just from the science of flavours and temperatures, but also from a warm heart. Yes, I remember that time I was trekking across the Antarctic. The weather conditions had deteriorated to such an extent that progress was very slow, and of course you can only move as fast as the weakest link in the group. And therefore Hector, dear Hector, with his gout and his glass eye, slowed us down as we marched across the Antarctic. I considered cutting him loose to cause him to fall into a chasm, but the empathic members of the group huddled around him and said, no, we must protect Hector. I said, well, so be it, but believe me, if we don't get a move on, you will be sucking his glass eye for sustenance. And indeed it so came to pass that as our rations grew perilously low, I thought to myself, it's okay, HG, we will get through this, because there are some empaths, and they have warm hearts, because warm hearts create food. They will magic up for me a beef Wellington to sustain me on my march. If necessary, I will be able to enjoy a Waldorf salad. All I need do is go along to a warm heart, because that's where food comes from. Failing that, I'll just kill them and eat them. So thank you for that pretentious nonsense that explains to us that food is made from a warm heart. Not to mention the incredible lighting done by Arnaud Chan, or Arnold Chan. Just as I pointed out before, for some stupid reason, her blog decides to write names in beige on white, which even for my excellent vision makes it a little difficult to see what's being written that always makes you feel happy to stay just a little bit longer and have one more last drink, as no doubt you scan the bar looking for someone that you can scam. Rochelle Canteen. Margaret Henderson, wife of Fergus Henderson and part of the incredible influential nose-to-tail food movement. Don't like the sound of that. Nose-to-tail basically sounds like what a dog would do, going around sniffing the anus of another dog. Oof, disgusting. Started by St. John. Also has a little cafe hidden in the yard of a defunct schoolhouse on Arnold Circus. You walk up and around the circus, a lush and overgrown roundabout with little benches for lovers to sit and hold hands, or for people just to sit and wait for their reservation to be called. Walk up to a brick doorway and ring a buzzer. Once inside the yard, the simple restaurant is clean and white, with floor-to-ceiling glass facade. Oh, well, you'll fit in well there, won't you? But is it clean and white until such time as it wants to be black, I wonder? And also, the floor-to-ceiling glass facade. But when does it get shattered? The food, wait for it, is fresh, hearty and flavourful. I love it here. Oh, I'm so disappointed. I hoped that you were going to explain that the food is rotting, stinking, and in a state of decay. The Wolseley. This restaurant will be on many a list of London guides, and is deservedly so. It holds the place that Balthazar does in New York, only the decor more elegant, the late David Collins, and the food more delicious. Well, I'm sure it is more delicious than the late David Collins. I don't know who you are, Mr. Collins. I'm sure you're a lovely chap, but I don't want to eat you. Hector, on the other hand, he was jolly tasty. I always peruse, look at, read, peruse. I'm going to peruse the menu. I'm going to peruse the wine list. I'm going to peruse the back of this ticket that takes me to nowhere. I'm going to peruse my book. No more pretentious nonsense. What do you do when you peruse? Do you have to sit in a particular way, perhaps holding your left hand out as if you're holding an imaginary cigarette or something, and then adjust your mouth as if you've got something stuck between your teeth and go, I'm perusing at the moment. Please don't disturb me. Very important task as I peruse. Load of fucking asinine horse wank. I always peruse the menu, but always have to come back to oysters. So why do you peruse the menu if you know what you're already going to have? Followed by steak tartare, French fries, open brackets, chips, close brackets. We know what French fries are. And a salad, the perfect meal for lunch or brunch or dinner. The bustle is just enough to make you feel the palpable happening that is London, but subdued enough that you can have a long conversation and bore your dinner companion into a catatonic state. That's all I'm going to offer you up today from the Stig, dear, dear viewers. But now you're getting the inside guide to London. It always entertains me that she names drops as if she actually knows these people, when we all know she's just looked it up in a guide or the blurb for the relevant place that she's gone to from the internet description. We see straight through you, because you're just as transparent as that ceiling-to-glass facade that you were talking about, or rather writing about earlier. Anyway, join me next time as we continue the exploration of the Stig. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.